Oh, hi, friends. I'm so happy for you to be joining me for the Sam Splains the World Quick Gardening Tip Edition. Um, you can see I have a tray of awesome things in here. This is my, hey, I have a tray left. What can I do? I know. I will put in a lot of extra seeds that I have because I like to harvest them every year and just see if anything pops up. And of course, everything popped up. So the things that got too big, too fast, like the cucumbers, those are usually pretty fast, and sugar snaps, have been transplanted to bigger places. And the little guys are okay for now, but soon enough they're gonna need like a bigger space. And I will probably move them to pots first, pots that I recycle and reuse all the time, every year. And then when there's no more nights dipping to the 30s like we're having right now, they will finally get planted in the raised metal beds that we just put together with really awesome layers, but that's for a different episode. So these, you notice, are uncovered because they're big enough and they're happy and they don't need it. But I'm gonna show you a trick. Little Sam Splain quick tip to produce your own little greenhouse inside. So remember, I always tell you to use like chicken containers, which is what this had been. And when you buy them, they're usually wrapped in saran wrap, which you remove and throw out because gross, raw chicken. But then you're able to use fresh, new cling wrap or saran wrap or whatever and make your own greenhouse. Notice the moisture that's staying in, so the dirt won't dry out and it's not soaking wet because you don't want things to rot. If it's just like sitting in water, like really oversaturated dirt, the seeds will just become moldy and like die, and it's gross. But you could do something like this and it will help you. Not only will it make the seeds grow faster, but it'll keep them warm and cozy, and give it the greenhouse effect, biodome effect, which is incredible. Sometimes people like to splurge and get like the full kit, which you don't necessarily have to do. You can do what I just showed you, but just to show you an example, it has its own hat to make a biodome with holes on top so that you're able to vent it so it's not too moist in there. And look at all of these. All of these beautiful seeds are future snapdragons. Now, I got overzealous because I was super excited to find a packet at the local Ocean State job lot, and I just dumped both packets in. This is a mix of seed starting soil and potting soil because those are the two little bits of dirt in bags that I had left. And I would say it took pretty well. I did this a couple days ago, and because it's creating its own biodome situation, greenhouse effect, the good kind, they popped up very quickly. I love snapdragons, and I'm like super excited to see them all over the garden. They're beautiful. They're so much fun. These are Sweet Williams, which is flower, perennial, gorgeous. I'll be planting that into the garden and everything. And yeah, different types of grow lights also in front of a super sunny window. If you don't have grow lights, that's okay. Start with a window and like one thing of seeds and see how that goes. And then expanding it crazy like me over the years. I didn't just do this one day because that's not cost effective. But over the past, let's see, when I first started getting super into doing it, seed growing over the winter in like 2015 is when the inside part started happening. And over the years started collecting different types of lights because there's science behind, like if you use pink lights for certain things, they do really well. And it makes your eyesight crazy because if you stare at that long enough and you look around the room, it looks green. It's kind of fun. But I also have like just bright natural light producing, or I mean, it's obviously not natural light, but a light that makes appear to be really bright sunlight, which is great for certain plants. I rotate them just to see, just to be Dr. Frankenstein and just experiment and see who does best with what, and it's really fun. Here's another chicken container. Oh, getting a little heavy because I just watered it. But this chicken container houses different tomatoes and some lettuce and some mystery friends because I had some extra seeds. So I just put different things in each of these and I'm waiting for them to pop up. But it had saran wrap, and then things started getting taller and I didn't feel like they needed it anymore. So I have removed the saran wrap and now it's happily aired out. But the important thing is to always check the moisture level of all the dirt inside. It's easy to forget that you have things. When it's this kind of setup, it's harder. But if you're starting for the first time and you're putting something on a shelf or, you know, wherever you get really great sunlight, make sure that you have a reminder set on your phone or computer or whatever to water or check the plants. Touch the soil first. If it feels dry, add water. If it's moist to the touch, you do not need to add water. You do not want to drown your friends. Some friends are going to drink way more water than others, and you'll see and figure that out as you go. But it's really fun, and it really helps for me because I get super depressed in the winter. But then planning and doing this and just getting ready with the anticipation of spring really, really helps my state of being. And of course, because we are having nights drop into the 30s, all of my friends that are outside hardening off, getting some sun a little bit more every day, are coming back in to sleep inside the house at night because it's too cold for most of those things. Some things are cold tolerant, but little vegetables generally are not, or baby plants don't really handle that well. So just be mindful and understand that you're going to be bringing things in and out unless you have like a big greenhouse or something, and then you do whatever you want because you're already winning. Hello friends and welcome back. Thank you for joining me out on this part of the deck. You may notice that I have a variety of things surrounding me, this is a Sam Explains the World gardening edition, taking the plants outside for hardening. What does that mean? Well, if you're growing things from seed, which is what most of this is, it's really important to acclimate them to the sunshine because they're going to be in full sun eventually. And if they're a type of plant that you're going to be like vegetables or things like that will need as much sun as possible, it's very important to get them used to the sun. They can't go from indoor, like windowsill sunlight or artificial light, to full blast sun without scorching their leaves, which will turn white and brittle and die off. So what you do is you take them out, put them in the sun a little longer every day until they have acclimated and they're super, super strong and won't have any issues in the sun or the elements outside. You can also have them in like a shaded spot, like not direct sunlight outside, for a week leading up to then putting them a little bit in the sun or planting them finally in their final resting place. It just depends on what you're able to do and what kind of situation you have going on for you. So these guys, because it keeps dropping down to the 30s, most of them are coming back inside at night because the 30s are way too cold for these plants. But our area, you know, has really funny weather that changes drastically from the 70s for a week, including like upper 50s at night, to then 50-degree weather days and 30-degree weather nights, which is just super radical and not conducive to growing a garden. So these guys have been getting sunlight a little bit more every day. You'll notice a greenhouse behind me, thanks to my amazing mother for sending me this. And everything you might note is on the ground. And under it, I have taken many layers of the black fabric gardening material that helps prevent weeding and things. And I did like a triple layer of that from a roll. It's fairly cheap to go underneath all those things, because this is a deck and cold air comes up from underneath it. So it's important to keep that in mind. And I didn't keep things on the shelves overnight or anything, because if it gets too windy, this isn't like built into my deck. It's one of those very reasonable greenhouses that you can get at any store right now for about, I mean, it depends on like how deluxe you're gonna go, but you can get some for like $45 that might have a couple of shelves, or, you know, then it goes up, obviously. And if it gets too windy, even though I have it tied down and staked down, it kind of becomes a hot air balloon or a kite and starts to try to take flight, which will knock things off of the upper shelves. And you do not want to hurt your plant babies, and that's, you know, super upsetting. So I put everybody on the ground, including all the big pots of like peonies and phlox and all those things. And they are able to stay in the greenhouse, because at night I'm covering it with an old like couch cover and tying it after closing, like zipping the door and everything, just to give it an extra layer of warmth, which has been working out very nicely. But for my little baby plant friends, they come back inside for a sleepover. So you're never lonely at night. Just kidding. It's just because the plants will absolutely die if they're out in 30-degree weather. So don't let false spring ruin your gardening hopes and dreams. It's very important to also point out that I have some really super fly plants that I got from Glicks on Saturday. That's over in Olay, and they're so reasonable and so nice. And no, they're not sponsoring this. I just want to give them a shout out. Yes, most of my things I start from seed, but some things that I have never grown before, I couldn't do that. So I got some like lemongrass and mint and things like that, lemon balm. All of that helps. Well, first of all, it's great. They're great herbs, but they help keep bad bugs away. Mosquitoes hate those things. And it's really fun, like lavender and stuff that I'm growing from seed inside. And rosemary will be planted all over the yard. Just because having like a sensory garden is so much fun, having really delightful things to smell, but also it really bugs that we don't want anywhere near us, like mosquitoes. So it's like a win-win-win situation. But just keep in mind, if you're going to venture into gardening and you get bummed out because every year you plant things too early, because there's a day that's like in the 70s, and then the next week everything drops to the 30s, just be aware and do things like bring stuff out and in for a little bit, or if you have to, wrap things in blankets. And if you're gonna wrap the plants in blankets, make sure that you have sticks or something a little bit taller than the plant, because the weight of the wool blanket is fairly heavy and your baby plants are not that strong yet. So, you know, I believe in you. You'll get creative, you'll figure out what works, and every year you're gonna get a little bit better, because that's how it works. That's life. And if you follow along with my tips, you'll be able to get better sooner, because I have been doing the trials and tribulations of gardening and realizing what works and what doesn't and what really needs to happen, because I love it. So thanks. And I hope everything works out for you very well in your gardening ventures. So if you want to do some more gardening, but you are sick of using recyclables and are going to have things that are going to be out in your yard or on your patio or front door or whatever, I highly recommend finding some things like this I found this at Dollar Tree. These are stacking things. They were $1.25, so I got a bunch. This is 1/3 of the tower. I just separated them because it got really windy and cold, so they were brought in. But something to keep in mind, make sure the bottom of your pot has holes in it. If it doesn't, it's super easy to take a drill or a nail with a hammer and add holes. For a tower like this, it's also very important to be able to put like a dowel or some kind of rod through the middle of it to make it more stable. because the higher the tower, like the more wiggly, wobbly it's going to become. You will need to drill that if they don't have it pre-made. For something that's $1.25, you're going to have to drill your own holes. Even if you get expensive things, sometimes there's like the outline of a hole, but there's not actually a hole, so you have to get in there and drill it. It's really easy, and it's vital because you cannot have your plants just sitting, rotting in water. They need to be able to drain properly. I put rocks in the center of these while I wait to then add the hole and add the dowel, which my partner is going to help me with because he is very good with things like that, and I'm afraid that I will ruin the structural integrity. Slash, I already planted things because I did not think ahead. So, learn from me and my mistakes. When you do this, before you put anything in the containers, drill the holes or make sure there are holes in them. And especially make sure, if you're going to get stacking ones, that you have holes down the middle through all of them, if they're not already there, so that you can put a dowel, a wooden stick, whatever kind of thing you have to give it stability. Because now it's going to be really annoying, and luckily my partner has the patience of a saint, and together we will take these all apart and drill the holes for the dowel to make it strong, so I won't have to worry about wind knocking it over, or a pesky squirrel or chipmunk, which, although adorable, they do love to eat everything. So with great gardening comes great responsibility and a fight with and against nature. It's exciting, really. So don't let that scare you off. It's still totally worth it. Well, hello. Thank you for joining me outside on this beautifully sunny day. Even though we're having really cool nights down in the 30s, I couldn't help but plant things outside last week when it was in the 70s. And the way that I'm keeping my plant babies alive, even though it's getting super cold at night today, is not getting up to the 70s. I have a Sam Explains the World quick tip edition for you for keeping your plant babies warm and alive if temps drop, which they do. Even if we have warm weather for a week, it always has the possibility of dipping back into the 30s at night, which is, the worst for gardeners. But one such thing that I like to do is by putting blankets over things, but I don't want to crush their spirits or kill the plants, so I add big sticks that I find in the yard or the woods, and I cover it with a nice thick wool blanket. If you don't have wool blankets, totally pop over to like Goodwill or a thrift store if you don't feel like dropping money on something that you're going to be using to save your plants. But only the best for my babies, / I already had wool blankets. And I put these together, like smush them side by side so that it's easier to wrap both of them, keep them warm together with one big wool blanket, as opposed to needing like 1,000 wool blankets as you go around your yard or deck or patio or rooftop or whatever you're using to garden. And make sure the sticks are sturdy and strong and durable. And it's important when the sun comes back out during the day to take the blankets off. If it's going to be really cold during the day, and you feel like it is too dangerous for your little plant babies, then it's okay to keep a blanket on it for a day or two. But just make sure that when it starts to get nice again and the sun is back out, to absolutely take the blanket off, to let the plants get as much sun as possible until tucking them up again at night. But all of these guys look great and they look happy because I took the precautions of pushing together two little raised beds, or I would say they're elevated beds because they have little like table legs underneath them, and put them together with a nice wool blanket so they have a sleepover. And that way they can all talk together and they won't be afraid at night. / their plants, they don't care. All right. This will help you because we all get tricked by false spring. where we live, because it happens every year. And this is one way that you can start gardening outside without losing your mind or losing your plants. So for those who want to get into composting, this is for you. You don't need to go spend a lot of money on one of those super fancy barrel rolling composters, unless you feel like it. Then awesome, good for you, dealer's choice. But we went to Tractor Supply Co., and for those who have never gone there, those stores have a lot of things for farmers or people who pretend to be farmers like me. So we were able to find a great container that's normally used for feed, so it's high grade. You know that the material isn't going to leak into something that you're going to eventually eat. And what we make sure to do is take the lid off so it doesn't just keep moisture in it too long, because that'll get moldy and gross and that won't be good for anybody's garden. And we rotate it and roll it around. We add coffee grounds every day from our coffee that we make at home. All the scraps from like when you're grating carrots or cutting up cucumbers, peeling them, banana peels, all things that are organic material. Most vegetables, fruit ends, and eggshells. But with eggshells, you want to make sure that you leave it out to dry. You don't want to put your slimy eggshells into your compost. I just don't think that's going to end well for you. So just take out your thing of empty eggs and leave it out for the sun to take care of it on a nice sunny day. It's going to be very light because obviously the egg material is mostly gone. So make sure if it's windy or whatever, you're putting it in a spot that it won't just get picked up and launched into your neighbor's yard, because apparently that's frowned upon / nobody wants eggs being thrown at them. But anyway, just one way you can get around spending a lot of money, and you can compost super easily using materials you find elsewhere for other things. Composting is really great, and because we already produce so much waste with food, it makes you feel a little bit better, and it's really good for the garden. So this will keep getting mixed up. The lid will eventually go back on it, and I will rotate it, turn it around, roll it around a little bit every day. But again, really important that the moisture gets released so that mold doesn't grow, because that is not a good thing. And again, dry out your eggshells before crumbling them and throwing them into your composter. Super easy. You already have all the material. You're using it every day outside of a container. You might even have a container you can use. That's awesome. The reason we got this one too is because the lid seals tight, so we're not inviting friends that are like, what is that, a buffet? That's delicious. No, that's not what we do here. No. Not on my watch. One of my favorite ways to save money, trying to get nice pots that aren't $1 billion, is to go to places like an Ocean State Job Lot or a Dollar Tree or Dollar General or anything like that. And they usually have fairly cheap pots. These beautiful ones I found at Dollar Tree, $5. It's plastic, but I'm obsessed with the color. But note, the bottom doesn't have any holes in it. Holes are really important for gardening. You need your plants to be able to drain, especially if they're sitting outside and they're exposed to the elements and it rains. You don't want your plants to be sitting in soggy water and then rotting, which is, the opposite of what you want for your garden. So, not a problem. All you have to do to create your own holes in the bottom of a planter is to use a drill and drill the holes. A little pressure and not having it stuck in the container like I just did. Make sure it's really, the bit is very secured in your drill. Otherwise, you end up embarrassing yourself like I just did. I need to tighten it a little bit more than I did before. Okay, almost. The easiest way to do this is to maintain the drill being on even once you puncture the pot in order to take it back out without it getting stuck like I just did. So we'll try it again. And you can watch me this time. That's how it works. I'm going to add at least 5 holes to the bottom of each of these pots before I transplant in some hydrangeas. I can't plant them in the ground yet because we keep having frost, keeps dropping to the 30s random nights, and that's going to continue to happen until, you know, May maybe. I remember a few years ago we had a really bad frost in June, so you do the best that you can and just get to drilling, because again, you do not want your plants sitting in soggy water and rotting. That's super depressing. So it's really easy. You just saw me do it the wrong way and the correct way. Maybe just focus on doing it the correct way, and in no time, all of your pots that you got at the dollar store or wherever will have holes in the bottom. You can even do like bucket gardening. If you go to a paint store or paint center and get some of those giant buckets. I've done that before. But my first time actually growing seeds over winter, I had never done it before. I didn't think it would take, and all 87 of the tomato plants took, and I panicked because I ran out of garden space. So I went to the paint store and was able to find a really nice gentleman who gave me a bunch of buckets for free as long as I shared my crops, which I did because I had an insane amount of tomatoes that in the end people didn't want me sharing with them anymore because they had had enough. So this and more. You just keep following me and learning to do things a way that makes more sense and is the most effective. And in no time, your garden will be up and running and easy to maintain. So thanks for popping over. Oh, hey friends, we're going on a little adventure. Now that the frost is finally gone, we're able to bring our friends back outside where they're gonna live forever. I'm about to water everybody. I have some people just straight up in the sun, some people in the greenhouse, and some under this gazebo, because not everybody can tolerate full sun yet as I'm hardening them off. But it's like, the most exciting time of the year that we've been waiting for all winter. And even though the groundhog saw its early spring arrival, winter held on like there's no tomorrow. So the time is ripe to go and plant things outside finally. And it's gonna be great. And just make sure that you understand nature's out there too. So if you have to fortify things, do that. Little netting, little fencing, plants that some people might not like deer or rabbits or chipmunks. There are a lot of options that you can choose that don't necessarily just straight up harm them. So. The birds and I want to thank you for stopping by and checking out Sam Explains the World Gardening Edition, where we learned how to harden off plants, how to protect them when they're outside and the temps might drop unexpectedly, as it does throughout the season, to make sure to put holes in containers so that there's proper drainage, composting, and other things. Now it's your turn to go out there in the world and garden and share with me what awesome things you're doing. And now it might sound like R2-D2 in the tray, but that's just a bird, because we live in a bird paradise. I believe in you guys. You're amazing.